Hello and welcome to ProjectWise Administrator Fundamentals Accreditation course, Modified Workflow Security. In the previous lesson, we learned how workflow and workflow state security can be applied using the ProjectWise Administrator module. In this lesson, we will learn how to set up workflow state security using the ProjectWise Explorer module. When we do decide to modify the folder and document permissions for a folder which already have a workflow assigned, this is referred to as modified workflow security. We will go through a practical and real-life scenario why applying workflow and state security in ProjectWise Explorer may seem more sensible. Here in ProjectWise Explorer, there are two projects. They are named Multi-Use Project and Single-Use Project. Both projects, their access control are currently inheriting from the Learn folder. So users in general are allowed to work on the documents within these two projects. In the earlier lessons, we have assigned the design workflow to the design files folder. Here's a hint. Whenever we looked at the Access Control tab or the Folder and Document Security tab in the Properties dialog window, when we see Real, it means that the selected folder has a workflow assigned, and the name of the workflow is listed in the next drop-down list. Since there are no security that has been applied to the design workflow in the ProjectWise Administrator module, so its folder and document permissions for this selected folder is still inheriting from the Learn folder. For the single-use building project, the designs folder, we also want to adopt the same design workflow. So let's open the folder properties dialog window and then go to the workflow and state tab. Assign the design workflow to the folder and hit OK to confirm. Now, documents in this folder will go through the work in progress review process and finally being approved. Go ahead and close this dialog window. We can definitely confirm that this folder has the design workflow assigned because on the Access Control tab, it shows Real on the first drop-down list, and the name of the workflow is also shown next to it. When we select Work in Progress, Review, and then Approve, the access control always review that users can work on the documents. This is because we have not applied the access control to the workflow or the workflow states yet. By the way, when the first drop-down list is set to Real on the Access Control tab, as we navigate through the different states, we are not setting anything up. We simply just view the access control for the documents at that particular state of the workflow. This can also be evident as well in the multi-use project where the design files folder has the design workflow assigned. After having discussions with users, the feedback is that any document which has the design workflow assigned, generally, users should only be able to view the documents and allow the subset of individuals to work on the documents when they reach certain workflow state. So let's see how this can be done. Open the Design Workflow Properties dialog window. On the Folder Security tab, we will leave it blank, and this will allow the access control from the folder to take place. Workflow security will not set any folder permissions. So let's go to the Document Security tab. We will select Administrator, Managers, and Users. Go ahead and hit OK. Administrator will have full control over the documents. Managers can perform most document operations, including freeing his or her team members' documents. But managers cannot change the document permissions. Generally, users should only be able to view the documents. Go ahead and hit OK. Since we have just set up the access control at the workflow level, double-clicking on each of the workflow states reveals to us that the access control for each workflow state is indeed inheriting the security from the design workflow. Let's switch back to ProjectWise Explorer to recap. When a folder is chosen and the access control is specifically set to define the folder and document permissions, this is called the object security. We do see that the object security is being set to allow users to work with documents, even to those folders which has a workflow assigned. But as soon as we updated the access control for the design workflow in the ProjectWise Administrator module, looking at this same folder, we see that users now only able to view the documents. Under the multi-use project as well as the single-use project, it shows us that any folder which has the design workflow assigned, users can only view the documents, which was exactly what we set up for the workflow security. This does confirm to us that concept number 7 is in effect, where the workflow security will prevail over the object security, with the only exception is that the object security is set to no access. We have a real-life situation here that can be quite challenging when implementing the security model. Firstly, there are multiple projects, and these projects' documents, they all need to go through the same states: work in progress, review, and approve. The challenge here is that each project is completely unique and is being worked on by its own team members. They can only work with the project documents that they are involved in. Team members are not allowed to work with the project documents that they are not involved in. All internal team members are allowed to view all documents across multiple projects. Applying workflow security using ProjectWise Administrator module will not help us in this situation, so let's see how we can tackle this. First of all, since each project has its own set of project participants, so we will need to create a set of groups that are project specific. For example, multi-use checkers. Make sure this group is a member of the user list. We also need to create a group called multi-use designers. Also make sure that this group is a member of the user list. Finally, go ahead and create another group called multi-use contractors. Make sure this group is a member of the external user list. So these 3 groups that we just created are specifically for those individuals who need to access the multi-use project. Since we are setting up access control that are project specific, we will need to select the project and set it up accordingly in ProjectWise Explorer. Highlight multi-use project and then go to the access control tab. From the first drop-down list, select workflow. And from the second drop-down list, select the design workflow. If there are multiple workflows that this project use, repeat the same steps and select the workflow that we want to set up the access control for. From the third drop-down list, select work in progress. Since we only interest in setting up document permissions for the workflow, we will just click on the drop down next to the plus symbol and select Add User to Document. Select user groups from the drop down and choose this specific project group, Multi-Use Designers, and hit OK. We want to make sure that designers for this project can work with the documents that are still work in progress. Hit the Apply button and we will choose the first option. Do this if we are not 100% sure that the subfolders have their own set of permissions and that we don't want to wipe out the subfolders' permissions. From the third drop-down list, select Review. Next to the plus symbol, choose Add User to Document. This time, we are going to select the multi-use checkers and hit OK. Hit Apply to save the permission change. From the third drop-down list, select Approved. Next to the plus symbol, choose Add User to Document. This time, select Multi-Use Contractors. We want to make sure that the contractors for this project can only view the document when it is in approved state. Once the workflow security has been applied to this multi-use project, we can validate that multi-use designers do have the permission to work with documents that are still work in progress. Browsing through the review state confirms that designers for this multi-use project are not listed here, but they can still view the documents because these designers are a member of the user list, and that checkers can move the documents to the next or previous state. Finally, when documents that are in approved state, only contractors for this project can view the documents. Other contractors or external users that are not part of this project will not be able to view the documents. The exercise for this lesson will be: find a project of your choice and assign a folder within your selected project to have a design workflow. This design workflow will have 3 states: work in progress, review, and approve. You will need to create 3 groups for your project and validate that they are members of the appropriate user lists. Finally, set up your project to allow the designers for your project to work with documents while they are still work in progress. When the documents for your project are in review state, only checkers for your project can move documents to the next state or push them back to the previous state. When documents for your project are in approved state, only contractors for your project can view the documents. No other contractors can view the same documents. During this lesson, we have learned setting up workflow and workflow state security using the ProjectWise Explorer module. This is often referred to as modified workflow security. This kind of security model allows each project to have documents to follow the same workflow states and still allow project participants to access its own projects.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with others. If you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to this and Bentley's other channels. Thank you, and see you next time.